This is DRF Race of the Day. Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF Race of the Day for Thursday, August the 5th. Race number 9 at the Spa. Let's throw up the field for the Birdstone Stakes. We're going a distance of ground, it's fair to say. 1.75 miles on the main track. You can download free Formulator Pass performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page, drf.com. Access them, handicap along with us. Mike, the number 3, Lone Rock, has ascended to the head of this division by virtue of his dominating win in the Brooklyn last time out. After that race, the connections immediately said, we're pointing for the Birdstone, and here he is.
It's hard to stop right now, isn't he, Dan? 3 in a row, 6 of his last 7. Each of his last 3 starts going 1.5 miles, and they're all fairly convincing victories, including that Brooklyn last time where he just dominated that field.
But he's going to have to catch the defending champion of this race, and that is the number 4, Moretti. As we take a look at the Timeform US Pace Projector, Moretti is one of those horses that you can depend to be on the lead in these long-distance races, and they're likely not going to be very fast. And, Mike, I have a feeling that Todd Pletcher's been pointing to this race all along. He ran him in the Brooklyn off a very long layoff. Then he was in too tough in the Suburban last time out.
Yeah, I think those things are all true. They've certainly been pointing this horse to this race all summer, and we'll see if he can defend his title. It's probably a little bit of a tougher field than the one that he beat last year, Dan, but this horse has been around for a while. We know that he just loves distance.
Distance isn't going to be a problem as well for the number 1, Rise the Guy, who's a tactical horse. He is going to get close to the pace. He's not going to have to worry about pace and trip because he will be close. What happened last time out in the Brooklyn? Lone Rock had his number that day.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a big excuse for him in that race, Dan. I mean, there might be one, that was certainly early on that card on Belmont Stakes Day, where it did sort of feel like maybe it didn't want to be on the inside. This horse basically sat the rail the entire way around the track, was in contention through the upper stretch, and they just sort of flattened out as the 1, 2, 3 finishers who all raced outside swept to the front and kept going. I don't know if it's a real excuse for him, but it might be. Personally, I feel like if you wanted to give him another chance to rebound in this race, like I do, you probably want to do it based more on his race 2 starts back, where I think he might have run at least as well as Lone Rock did, as he made an early move in that race to go challenge, and Lone Rock, who sat and waited, ran on down in the stretch.
Not only was it an early move, it was his first run off of a layoff going a demanding distance. You're right. He did run very well in that race. The 2, He's No Lemon, as you see on the pace projector, he is going to need some pace help as he makes his dirt debut. Graded stakes placed on grass. Distance isn't going to be a problem. And it's very interesting that a very sharp trainer in Kenny McPeak reached in for $80,000, no insignificant sum for this 5-year-old gelding.
Yeah, that is very interesting. We'll see what he does in this race. I guess his pedigree, there's enough of it to suggest that he could run okay on dirt. We'll see what he does. He's pretty hard to take, but distance is no problem for him. This is a very sharp trainer. It feels like maybe he claimed this horse with a race like this in mind.
Let's watch Lone Rock's dominating performance in the Brooklyn, a 100 Beyer speed figure going 1.5 miles on Belmont Stakes Day. He got right up close to the pace. He took over at the 5/16 pole. He made a little bit of an early lead change, but just watch him sprint on home to win by almost 12 lengths. Now, the runner-up is a magician. He had some trouble leaving the gate and then chased wide. He ran well to be second. You see Moretti finishing 3rd off of the layoff. I wonder if this was the time to have Lone Rock. You could make excuses. It's hard to say that there were excuses behind him when you win by 1 million, but I think you could make some excuses for the horses he beat.
That's not a bad point at all, Dan. Maybe you're right. Maybe last time was the time to have him. He's just in such good form right now, and he's just one of those horses. I get that Moretti's probably on the lead. This horse is not going to be compromised by the way the race is run. He has really good tactical speed, and as you saw there, and if you want to go back and look at his races 2 and 3 back, you'll see it again. He can sit up close and still finish.
He's simply the horse to beat. I mean, he's won 4 of 5 since being reclaimed by Diodoro. His Beyer speed figures speak for themselves. He is a dependable, fast horse. And again, he's in razor sharp form and is at the head of this division. But you can't sleep on Moretti, who won this race last year, actually from off of the pace. He does not need the lead to win if someone else is going to go. I'm not sure someone else is going to go. Maybe Rise the Guy will try to take the bull by the horns. Maybe Lone Rock will show some speed. but it's a mile and 3/4. There's no rush. I think Moretti makes the lead, and I actually thought he ran okay considering he was probably up against it from a class standpoint in the Suburban. He went a solid pace up front.
Yeah, he did. He ran fine last time in a race that, at the end of the day, is just way too tough for him. His Brooklyn, as you've already pointed out, was off the layoff, so that offers some kind of an excuse for him. Even though he got a good trip and he was up close all the way, he might have just needed that race. And I think it's something we haven't really touched on yet, Dan, with the first three, the three inside runners. This race is a mile and 3/4. It's not a mile and a half, which is what Lone Rock's been so dominant over in his most recent starts. He's got to go even longer this time. It could be a problem for him. It's not a problem for Moretti.
Sugar Ray, too, has been winning at a mile and 70, so he's really stretching out. I think he's got the pedigree to handle it. Let's watch his last race. $25,000 starter at Parks. It's an off-the-turf race, and he's going to try to rally from out of it. He's going to make this close down at the wire. He did run a 94 Beyer speed figure going a mile and 3/8, the longest race by far of his career. So I think this distance is okay, but he's facing a tough task and some tough horses.
Agree. I mean, listen, it's interesting that he's here. It feels like his connections. This might be another horse whose connections have been pointing for this race. They got him 2 preps over the summer there in races where he's entered main track only, and he got to run both times. And now he's third off that little bit of a layoff. And his best race, as you pointed out, is the one where they went long 3 starts back.
I can understand anyone that's going to say Lone Rock has the number 6 You're to Blame's number. Lone Rock has either beaten or finished ahead of You're to Blame in their last 4 meetings. I can also understand anyone that's saying new barn, maybe new horse. Here's You're to Blame's first start for the Orlando Nota barn at Saratoga only 11 days ago. This race is off the turf. And while You're to Blame has always been a horse with a good amount of back class, really strong company lines, you're not expecting him to win by 10 at the Spa.
Yeah, that's true. That's funny too, because this is a race where you could just say, well, it was, off the turf and he got in and he beat a bunch of turf horses. Big deal. It wasn't one of those races. There were several main track onlys in that race. They all stayed in and they're all sort of solid, sort of allowance type horses. And he just absolutely buried them. And it felt like maybe he got back to one of his good races there in his first start for these connections. Dan, we'll see if he can back it up. As you've already pointed out, he's got a lot of back class and he gets the distance.
He was second in this race last year to Moretti, sort of grinding it out late to get up for second after he looked like he might be in a little bit of trouble going into the third turn. And obviously, he is in very, very good form. And if there is some hitting up front, he should come with a strong kick. Rocketry, Mike, I've tried to make cases for Rocketry many times over the years. I'm done losing money on Rocketry, which means he might be set to win. He was outside in the Brooklyn last time out. He didn't run very well, but maybe you could give him just an excuse for that performance simply because of that fact that he was wide. I don't know. Just look at his 2 starts without Lasix, not up to par as for when he usually runs with Lasix.
Yeah, I mean, his last 2 races aren't good. He's, just is one of those horses who, after he first switched over to dirt when he ran really well, he just sort of feels like he's leveled off and has never gotten back to those races. He could still win here if he gets some kind of, pace collapse in front of him, because he will be last early. And he does really like distance, Dan. I mean, he'll run to the end of this mile and 3/4. He's just pretty hard to take on top.
Let's take a look at our top picks. Lone Rock and Moretti are going to be tough. We're going to look for higher prices elsewhere, however. Rise to Guy is a horse that has always hinted at running a race like this where he could win it. He has run good races going long in the past. He has tactical speed. Best trade is going to be a price.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to give him one more chance in there. I liked him in the Brooklyn last time. Again, I don't know if he has a real excuse for that race, but I want to give him one because I do think he might have run at least as well as Lone Rock did 2 starts back. So I want to give this horse one more chance at a price.
New barn striking while the iron is hot with the 6 You're to Blame, who has always liked Saratoga. I think he's coming into form, and I think he's going to be running hard at the end of this race. Hoping he drifts a little bit off that 4-1, however. 1-3-4-6 for Mike, 6-3-4-1 for me. It's the Birdstone. We're only going 14 furlongs at the Spa on Thursday. Good luck.